Okay, good. Okay, I'm Tom Dozier. I've been working with misophonia for over 7 years now, and I went into misophonia with a fairly blank slate. I I knew that it wasn't a hearing neurology problem because the first person that I was introduced to with misophonia was a girl who had auditory, visual, and olfactory triggers. And if they have those three senses of triggers and the reaction was the same for all three, it cannot be the hearing neurology, right? It has to be something further into the brain, a reflex response. And so, because it was described to me as this emotional explosion, I thought it was an emotional reflex problem, which in part, in a major part, it is. But when I started working with individuals and investigating this, I found out some other things about it. But the simple criteria for misophonia is it's an extreme response to common occurring, innocuous, everyday stimuli, right? And it just can be anything. Now, the way it's typically talked about and the way the vast majority of you experience is this top line. Would you agree that you feel a trigger, you have this extreme anger, you're distressed, and then you're going to do something? You're going to scream, yell, leave the room, put your hands over your ear. How many agree with that's your basic definition of misophonia? And that was what I started with. That's the definition I started with. But when I looked at misophonia closer, what I found is there is a physical flinch component to misophonia. And courtesy of my granddaughter, this is going to show that we showed this at the Misophonia Association annual convention. There may be a sniff here. It didn't come through, but there was that foot flinch happens right after a sniff. Did you have the trigger, the reflex, and the emotions? And watch this, boom. And it's like she's getting tasered in her calves. And if you get hit by that, would you be upset? And just imagine this little girl, 7, 8 years old, sitting beside her brother doing homeschool. And every minute or two or three, he sniffs. Do you think she would start to become angry? Because it's like she's getting tasered in her calves. And so this is the definition that I have for misophonia. And I've seen that this physical reflex has some independence of the emotional reflex. I'm not going to go into that, but we did a study trying to get this out into the public domain where we had 26 people and we had them exposed to very weak triggers, something that you don't typically experience, something that's very short, very soft, and try to say, where did you, when it first started to trigger you, where did you feel it? And we found that half of the people felt it in their shoulders. 40% had felt it in their hands and their arms. And you can see it was literally from head to toe, where people had all kinds of different reactions. Some were even immediate sexual pings, down in your groin, very, very distressing. So we realized that 100% of these people reported an immediate sensation when they had a trigger. And so we haven't got this data published, and I showed this last year, and we're still trying to get it published. But where we had people, we watched them. For one thing, we watched the people to see how quickly did we see that muscle flinch, and it was immediate. Here's a person who we were able to measure it on, and from the time the trigger, the sniff started, to the time the muscle flinched was 0.2 seconds, 200 milliseconds, about on average. So it's so fast, it is not a thoughtful response. And so here's what I presented at the Brazil conference on misophonia, where you have the trigger, and the trigger, let's see if my pointer shows here, right? We have the trigger, and then you have this physical reflex, which is we view as a Pavlovian or classically conditioned physical flinch. We have the extreme emotions, who Dr. Sukhbinder Kumar in 2015 at this conference talked about how that was a learned or a conditioned emotional response. Then you have the physiological distress, which is just something your bodies know how to do. And then you have your behaviors, coping behaviors at the end. So in summary, misophonia is a multisensory disorder. It's not just visual. Like 92% of the people on a survey I gave had visual triggers, right? 100% had auditory triggers, but 92% had visual triggers. We believe it has a learned initial physical response and a learned emotional response, and that emotional response dominates your experience. And so really I view misophonia as it has both this physical and emotional responses that are strengthened with normal experience. And there's the model I have below here, right? The trigger, the reflex, the emotions, the distress, and the coping. And I want to say that this model is supported by treatment results. And so I want to go through some of the things we can do that. And how many of you have done progressive muscle relaxation before? Okay. So here's your brain. I blame the lizard brain for this physical reflex. We don't have good brain imaging on that. But we know the center limbic system, that's your emotional brain, and that thing's going crazy when it comes to the triggers. But also that if you pop a balloon behind you, you jump, right? And these are reflexes, and we have the ability to learn reflexes. Okay, so let me just see. I saw a pop-up of I think what they're going to tell me is I'm not sharing my webcam. And now I am sharing my webcam. Okay. So, and you're right. I didn't see the message come in. Sorry. So again, this is what we're talking about, and what I want to say is that if we can eliminate this physical reflex, and some of you have distinct reflexes that are easy to work with, some of you have very nebulous things that are happening that are very hard for you to work with. So this is not true, easily done for some of you, but for those who have a reflex that we can get to and we can eliminate, that we find that the response goes away. And progressive muscle relaxation is a key to do this. So progressive muscle relaxation, I want to keep my check on the time here, was developed about a century ago by Edmund Jacobson. It was you tense the muscle and then you relax. And what that does is by focusing on the way this feels to be tense and then instantly relaxing it and focusing on that area of your muscles, your body, that with repetition, your brain starts to address the command relax. So right now, just take one of your hands, think of one of your hands and relax it. Just relax it. You can probably do that, right? The problem is that you can't do that for muscles that you haven't used repeatedly. Can you please mute the attendees? Thank you. Excuse me. Very important. I apologize to those on the live stream. Okay, so you can do that, right? Think about your jaw right now and relax it. Just let it go. You can do that, right? I want you to think about the muscles in your lower back here. Just think about those and relax them. Can you even figure out how to contact those muscles? I doubt it, because you don't practice relaxing those muscles. But if you would tense those muscles and relax and focus on how that feels, it develops the ability to relax on demand. So they originally did like 200 different muscle groups. I have not been able to find that data. I would like to see that. But now they say you can do 15 to 20 to get a good relaxation. But for those of you who have a specific muscle that jerks on you, you need to work on relaxing that muscle. One man named the muscle, it's the thing that's right in here that like pulls your shoulder back. And like, okay, then that's the muscle you need to work on. So when you do daily progressive muscle relaxation, you get into a state of deep relaxation. And that deep relaxation can occur through yoga, through meditation, through mindfulness meditation, through progressive muscle relaxation. But only progressive muscle relaxation helps you develop the skill of relaxing on demand. How many of you have ever played a musical instrument? How did you get better at the musical instrument? Practice, that's right. Any of you played a sport? How do you get better at that sport? Practice. This is not a concept. This is something that you have to do regularly. Now, there's benefits of doing it. Daily deep relaxation in any of those methods can give you a reduction in generalized anxiety, prevents accumulated stress, gives you more energy and productivity, increases concentration and memory, reduces fatigue and insomnia, reduces psychosomatic mind-body disorders such as high blood pressure, migraines, headaches, asthma, ulcers, improves self-confidence, reduces self-blame, increases better awareness of feelings. It's very, very positive. And when you're doing the muscle relaxation, anytime you're getting deep relaxation, you have a reduced heart rate, your respiration goes down, you're kind of like almost going into hibernation. You know, your blood pressure goes down, muscle tension goes away, and but that's not the main benefit. The main benefit for misophonia is, well, there'll be the global benefits here of improved health and well-being and sleep, but you're going to get a reduction in your misophonia, anger, and rage. That if you can relax your muscles after a trigger, there was a wise man at the very first Misophonia Association, not Misophonia Tinnitus Practitioners Conference on Misophonia, who said, oh, when I get triggered, I just relax because it cuts down the anger. And he's presented at this conference also. And so that's good as a way of dealing with triggers. But if you can relax before a trigger, it's like hitting a loose drum head, boom, versus boom. Okay, so relaxing before it can reduce the severity of the trigger. And if you relax and hold that relaxation, it changes your lizard brain. Your lizard brain, these reflexes, is the most neurotic element in your brain completely. It is completely unconfident and always second guessing itself. And it jerks your muscles and says, did I do the right thing? I'm looking, I'm watching. And if you jerks that muscle and you go, oh, I hate that, it goes, I did the right thing, but next time I'm going to hit you harder. And if it's relax, boom, oh, relax. It goes, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting. Next time I'll do it just a little bit weaker. Boom, relax. And it actually changes the physical flinch of misophonia. And that reduces the future severity of triggers. So here's a case. I just want to throw this out. I'm going to talk about something she said later, but Bristol had a jaw flinch. Does anybody here clench their jaw when they hear a trigger? Great, because if that's your only muscle, that's an easy one to control. So 2 days after she and I met for the first time, she went out with her mom to do some service for an elderly neighbor lady and pull weeds from the flower beds. And so she's out here on the street, and all of a sudden, almost as soon as she got there, kids are screaming. And that's one of her triggers. And I'll tell the rest of the story, but it really, she used this relaxation to help her. And you can see the blue line and the little purple dot, and then we didn't do one the second time, but we met on treatment week 0, 1, 4, 7, and 10. So we've met 5 times. And she did the muscle relaxation twice a day, plus at bedtime to go to sleep. And then she relaxed around triggers. And this is a pretty incredible response to her triggers. And I'll share a couple of other stories that go on that have a similar kind of results. So, how many of you what would you give to have your misophonia drastically reduced? Would you give an hour a day, a full hour a day? because that's what I recommend for people now, is to spend, broken up into 3 different times, an hour a day, and I'll give you more specific recommendations later. Then I want them, once you've done that for at least 10 to 15 times, then you start practicing just relaxing. Like, I'm going to relax my hands, I'm going to relax my arms, and you just step through your body. I'm going to think of the small of my back. I'm going to relax those muscles, and I'm going to just step through, trying to find the muscle and relax. And then you also do what I call ragdoll, or total instant relaxation. Just let all of the tension go as quickly as you can. And you practice this when there are no triggers, because it's a skill you need to have before you go on to the stage for the big performance with the real triggers. And so with misophonia, when you relax going into that situation, it makes it better. When you relax right after a trigger, it makes it better. And when you can relax and hold it before, then it makes it much better. Loud question.
If you're talking about the back, if you don't know how to identify those muscles, how do you know how to?
We have the straight lady here. Yes, thank you very much for asking that question of how do you learn to relax those muscles if you can't make contact with them. Well, the answer is you do progressive muscle relaxation training. And a session is going to be 10 to 25 minutes. You need a quiet location, no distractions. It's best if you do it at regular times on an empty stomach in a comfortable body position. I normally recommend laying down position. Loosen any tight clothing. Don't worry about other things. And you just have to kind of be there and do it and let it happen. But you're thinking about the specific muscles that are called out to work on. You tense a specific muscle for 7 to 10 seconds. It can be tight, but don't strain, don't hurt yourself. Concentrate on that muscle. Notice how it feels to be tense. Visualize that muscle and then abruptly release it. And now keep your focus on that muscle and notice how it feels to be relaxed and calm and limp, and focus on that limpness. By noticing the difference, your brain starts to pick up to how to find that muscle. Okay, and then you repeat it for each group's going on with other muscles, and you staying relaxed. So here's a case of Timothy. He's a 32-year-old man who had an abdomen, neck, and jaw reaction. He had comorbid OCD, anxiety, and ADHD. He was triggered by refrigerators, heaters or air conditioner fans blowing, throat clearing, eating, all kinds of things. He was absolutely at his max. He was maxed out. He was so maxed out. He got into his car and headed south for Livermore, California, without ever calling me. And so when he got there, let me change this slightly. I had a request for somebody, so I'm gonna see if I can do this. When he got, I found out he was coming, and I called him and said, yeah, come on. And we worked every day, and after a while, we were together for about 5 days, and this is so that 0 to first week was 5 meetings over I think 6 days. And he learned to relax. He started using a box fan. He did the muscle relaxation 3 times a day. He relaxed around triggers. He focused away from the triggers. And then we had one follow-up question. So, he is not cured by any stretch of imagination. But he has had drastic improvement. And he was at a point that everything triggered him. He was just, I don't know, some of you may have been in that totally overwhelmed state. Okay, so PMR session. You start by taking a few deep breaths and relaxing, and then you go individually through your muscles, your fists, your biceps, your triceps, your forehead, around your eyes, your jaw, neck, shoulders, shoulder blades, chest, stomach, lower back, buttocks, thighs, calves, shins, feet, toes, etc. Now, I had planned on doing this. So I'm going to offer you the opportunity to sit right where you are, or to find a place on a carpet and lay down. And we're going to do about a 15-minute muscle relaxation training session. What's that? Well, okay, I'll make all this available. And you want to do this from an guided audio. So is anybody willing to lay down and lay down? You want to do it right where you are? Lay down, get up, stand up, go move it to a spot. Take an empty spot. I'm going to talk through it. I'm not going to use recorded audio. I'm going to talk you through this. Okay, when you get into position or where you're seated, relax. Even I'd like everyone to try to do this, even if there's more room up front here. There's more room up front. Plenty of places you can come up. Somebody can come over here on this side as well. There's a spot here. There's enough for 2 spots here, 2 spots over there. Come on up, grab you a spot. You know, if you want to have some fun, just step on somebody on the way. So hear them scream. So okay, so close your eyes. Maybe put your hands down by your side or on your. That would be great. Where you want them comfortable. Right? You want to be comfortable where you're comfortable. Close your eyes and just take a few slow, deep breaths. Just let the air go in and go out. And as you breathe in, try to stay relaxed. As you breathe out, just let it relax a little bit more. Then I want you to think of your fist. Think of your right hand and forearm and clench it. Make a fist. Just tighten it up and hold that tension. Notice how that feels in your hand and your forearm. And release. Just let it go. Keep your mind focused on those muscles, how that feels, the difference between tension and relaxation. Now think of your left fist. Left hand, make a fist. And clench that tight. Feel the tension. You might feel the strain in the hands and in the forearms. And release. Let it go. Again, keep your mind focused on that left hand and forearm. Noticing how nice it feels to be relaxed. Do your best to just stay relaxed and just keep it relaxed. And leave it. When we start working on a muscle, just leave everything else relaxed and uninvolved. I want you to think of your right biceps. And I want you to pull your fist up towards your shoulder, or hand. Let your hand go limp. Pull your hand up towards your shoulder. That's clenching your bicep. Notice the strain that you feel in your bicep and release it. Let it go. Again, focus on your bicep. Notice how that feels. Notice the softness, the looseness. I want you to focus on your right. Take your right arm and put it down straight and lock your elbow. Just lock your elbow. And when you lock your elbow, that way you're straining your tricep. Feel that strain as you keep your elbow locked and release. Again, our goal is to try to keep all the other muscles relaxed, but focus on that tricep area in your upper arm. Notice the limpness. Notice the difference when it's tense versus when it's relaxed. Now I want you to think of your left bicep and take a loose hand, bring your loose hand up to your shoulder. Push it up towards your shoulder, tightening that muscle up. Feel the strain and relax. And just let it go. Again, focus on that bicep. Pay attention to how that feels. Notice it's very different from when it was tense and tight, now that it's loose and limp. Now lock your left arm at the elbow and straighten it out. And that, again, that leaving your hands relaxed, focus on your upper arm, the muscles in that area that's causing that, and release. Once again, you want to focus on those tricep muscles in your upper arm. Probably don't know exactly where they are. That's okay. Just kind of visualize the upper arm and how released, relaxed, and limp that is. Now, let's go to your face. Let's focus on your forehead and raise your eyebrows up. Bring those eyebrows up as far as you can. Feel the strain in your forehead as those muscles are pulling tight. Hold it and release again. And think of those eyes. Think of that forehead area. Think of those muscles. And just notice how different it feels now that they're relaxed compared to when they were tense and tight. Now let's shut your eyes hard and make a frown. Pull those eyebrows down and close those eyes really hard. Hold that tension, feel that tension around your eyes and your eyebrows, and release. Again, just letting the natural relaxation flow in, noticing how nice it feels when they're relaxed and limp compared to when they were tense and tight. Think of your jaw and clench your teeth. We don't want to crack any teeth, but have it nice and tight. Notice the tension that you have there. Notice the strain, the pressure, and release. Just let it relax. Let your teeth separate naturally. Notice how that feels. I want you to think of your neck muscles, and I want you to bring your head forward slightly, keeping the forward muscles there. Pull it backwards, tightening up all the muscles in your neck. Feel the strain in those muscles. We could do them individually if this was an issue, but for now we're doing them all together. Notice the strain, notice the tension, and release. And focus on your neck. Notice the relaxation. Notice the difference. Notice how that feels. If you need to bend your knees to feel a little more comfortable, you can bend your knees to feel a little more comfortable and take the pressure off your back. Okay, I think your shoulders. Let's bring your shoulders up towards your ears. Pull your shoulders up. Feel the strain in your shoulders around your neck. Notice how that feels. Feel the tension, that strain, and release. Again, notice how different those muscles feel when they are released and soft and heavy, and how good that feels compared to when those muscles were tense and tight and stressed. Now let's work on your shoulder blades. Let's try to pull your shoulder blades back and touch them together. Pull those back, and that will put a straining in those muscles between your shoulder blades. Feel that strain. Notice that tension. Focus on it and release. Let it go. Let the relaxation flow in. The tension flows out. And as you keep your mind focused on those muscles, keeping the best rest of your body as relaxed as you can, but you focus on those muscles in the middle of your back. I want you to take a deep breath. Pull in, pull in, pull in until you can't breathe in anymore. And then hold that. Hold that. Feel the strain in your chest. And then just let it go. Just let it blow out. And let those muscles relax. Now this next one I'm going to point you to is one that we don't often do a lot, but I know stress, a lot of people carry stress in their chest. So I want you to take both hands and put them on your stomach. And I want you to make one an open hand and put the fist of the other hand into your open hand. And then just push those two together. Push those arms together so that you're trying to push those hands as tight as you can to eat toward each other. You're using your chest muscles here. Yeah, you're pushing those hands together. You feel that strain in the middle of your chest. And release. And let it go. Focusing on those chest muscles that are now relaxed. And as time goes on, they just relax a little more and a little more as the stress goes away and the relaxation flows in. I want you to think of your lower back, and I want you to rotate your hips forward slightly, arching your lower back. Feel that tension in your lower back. Feel that strain. Don't hurt anything. Feel that strain in those muscles. And release. Focus on that lower back. It's now relaxed and released. And we didn't do this with the upper back, so let's arch our upper back a little bit. Arch that upper back. Even your whole back if you need to. Feel it again. You feel that strain in your back. And release. Focus on those muscles in your upper back. Those are the same area that for our shoulder blades, but they're different muscles. One was pulling in, this is a different direction. Notice that relaxation. Just feel the relaxation. Now focus on your buttocks and tighten them up. Tighten up your buttocks as tight as you can. Feel the strain. Feel the pressure. You're going to hold it tight. Keep it tight. And release. Let it go, relax. How different it feels. Focus on that area. Notice the relaxation. Notice the difference. Now tighten up your thighs, your calves, and your thighs, your hamstrings, and your quads. So your upper legs are all tight. Tighten those up. Trying to keep everything else as relaxed as possible. Focusing on that strain and those big muscles in your legs. And release. Let it go. Notice how different those areas feel now. That your thighs are relaxed, soft, and limp. I want you to take and point your toe down, your foot downward. Pointing your feet downward tightens, pulls your calf muscles. So you'll feel that in your calf. And you feel the strain in that calf muscle. Notice how that feels. Focus on it and release. And just think of that muscle in your calves and how different that feels now. How nice it feels. How that relaxation feels good. Now, go the opposite direction with your foot. Pull your foot towards your face, your head, and then when you do that, you're going to feel some strain in the back, but those are your shin muscles. Those are shins that you're pulling there. You're tightening those shins, and you're feeling that strain. You hold it, and you release. And you focus, visualize your shins now that are relaxed and that are comfortable. We're going to go to our toes. Let's flare your toes. Like spread them out as far as you can on both feet. Just flare those toes out and feel that strain as you flare those toes out. And just notice how that feels and hold it for a few seconds more, and release. Again, keeping your mind focused on that part of your body, toes, how different it feels now that it's relaxed. So your brain is learning, oh, this is relaxation. The other was tension. And relaxation is different than tension. It's learning how to do it. Now I want you to take your toes and curl your toes downward. Push them down, and if you start to cramp, just your toes, not your feet. Just roll your toes down, and if it starts to cramp, release. Hold it and release. When I first started doing that, I couldn't hold it very long. I can now hold it without my toes cramping. Just notice how that feels. Notice the relaxation in your feet and the lack of tension. Now, one more we're going to do, we want to curl our toes upward. Pull your toes, not your feet, but your toes up toward your nose. And you feel the strain. That's somewhere up in your shins that those muscles are occurring. Feel that tension, feel that strain, and release. Just enjoy the relaxation. If we were doing this on a regular basis, we'd probably have time for you to notice muscles and tense them and relax them again. But just notice how you feel. Notice that nice, relaxed, calm feeling and the looseness in all your muscles. Now you can start to become aware and come back to life. And when you're ready and willing, you can start moving your muscles and you can decide you want to get up. But you can stay there as long as you want. I was doing this in a session once with a little small seminar, and we used a recorded audio, and I was doing it, and I went to sleep. So that's a session of progressive muscle relaxation. So while you're gathering up, I'll just tell you a couple things. I believe so strongly in this that I'm putting out and making an app that will allow you to do more specific muscles. It'll be called Misophonia Muscle Relaxation Training. And it's going to be a free app, and there'll be a paid version for extra things. But this has a very positive effect in two ways. One is you get that deep relaxation, and two, you start to learn to control your stress. And I believe that for the people that are like on the absolute edge when they answer that question about how bad their misophonia is, and it's the maximum horrible, their overall level of distress is so high that this alone starts bringing down that overall constant general distress. So it's best for adults with strong, distinct initial physical reflex response. I ask, if you really, yes, question. Yeah, but the difference here is when you do yoga, you're slowly going into a state of deep relaxation. You're not learning the neurological connections to go relax. And that's the difference. I mean, those are very good to get that deep relaxation. It's every bit, probably even better than this to get deep relaxation and to hold it. But it doesn't teach the skill of relaxing a muscle on demand. And when you're triggered, when you're going in there, did anybody ever say, I'm tense? You ever hear, I'm tense? You know where that word comes from? It's a description of your muscles. I feel tense. Oh, well, relax. Oh, I feel better. I don't feel so tense. So when you're tense, if you can relax, you're going into a situation, I'll cover that in a minute, but so that's the difference here. If you go to misophoniatreatment.com/PMR, there's the Dartmouth audio, there's the Arizona State audio, and I recommend people do the Dartmouth 1 time a day, that's almost half an hour, and the Arizona State twice a day. How many of you here have trouble going to sleep? Takes you more than 15 minutes to go to sleep. Okay, so go click on the link that's for the Google Drive, and go down to the find Sleep Dartmouth or Sleep ASU. I don't know, it may be Sleep PMR Dartmouth or something, but anyways, Dartmouth and ASU, and it has sleep in it. And those do this kind of a session, but at the end it just fades out. It doesn't say, okay, wake up. I worked with a man who would go to sleep on the couch about 9 o'clock and wake up at 2, and he couldn't go back to sleep for hours. He does a PMR. When he goes back to bed, he goes right back to sleep. So this gives you both muscle training, so you're building skill, and more sleep. Again, after you've done the PMR sessions 10 to 15 times, so that could be, 4 days, right? Then you can start doing the sequential relaxation where you just, at your own mind, pick a muscle, relax, and you just step through your body. And then you practice this total instant, let all the tension go out. Relax before triggers, relax and hold after triggers. And when you're irritated, this can possibly prevent you from developing new triggers. Because when you're tense and you're noticing a sound, then you can develop a new trigger. You can, to determine your physical reflex, you can have somebody, that you trust. If you're triggered or crunchy, have them get a little bit of a piece of celery and just do a little, just a little tiny thing, 15 feet or 20 feet from you. And then they can make it a little bit louder and a little bit louder until it just starts to trigger you. You can also use, this shows the Misophonia Reflex Finder, which is a free app that you can have some triggers in it, but you can also record a sound and then play it back. I want to hear this for 0.35 seconds, just a little, at 10% volume. When you find that when you're just starting to be triggered, then you're just going to get that initial physical reflex, and most people can find it. Not everyone. I worked with one woman for 6 months when I was learning about misophonia once a week. And after 6 months, she didn't have a reflex. She said, I found my reflex. I says, really, what is it? She goes, it's this. It was a frown. But that's a natural, she thought that I just frowned because I was angry, right? But at work, she said, a friend said, "Why are you mad?" She said, "I'm not mad." Then she said, "Well, then why are you frowning? In fact, you frown almost all the time." She was triggered quite a bit at work. And so she found that if she would relax those muscles and kind of rub those muscles to try to relax them out, physically massage them, brought down her severity. So this is part of what brings me to have this is part of this model that I've shown in support for that. Again, I said your lizard brain is the most neurotic and insecure part of your brain. It's always second guessing itself, and that's great because whatever you're doing for 2 or 3 seconds after a trigger, if anything, it's watching you. And that's how it builds triggers. It says, you heard that click and you pulled your left shoulder muscle up. You heard that click, this muscle. Oh, I know what to do now. And so now, totally different situation. You're not stressed, and it goes click. You go, whoa, what was that? And then then it just grows from that point. And you could have emotions associated with that comes at the same time. I'm not saying you can't. And I'm not saying that there's not a different version of misophonia out there for some people. This may not describe everyone, but it sure describes the vast majority of people that I've done in my research and worked with. So let's see. Okay, here's a guy, Ted. He did muscle relaxation and blocking the reflex. So he had a breath hold reflex. So he would be going along, and he would hear a trigger, and his muscles he would just stop breathing. So what those chest muscles needed to see, they needed to see that muscles that they keep moving, because the lizard brain, if it saw that it held it and then you held it because you were irritated or upset or worried, then it said, I did the right thing. But if you're breathing and it goes, and you keep breathing, then that physical reflex of locking your chest muscles up goes away. So I've got 4 guys. I've met with him 4 times so far. Again, he did, anybody here ever done scuba diving? The rule in scuba, never hold your breath. You have to breathe in, breathe in. And that was the treatment. That was one of his treatments, in addition to the progressive muscle relaxation training and relaxing into those situations and trying to hold a general relaxation when he was there. And he had great results. This guy, notice on a scale of misophonia severity up to 100%, he was only at 55%. That would be about a 35 or so, 36, 37 on the misophonia assessment questionnaire. But it's very good response to it. Relaxing muscles can eliminate triggers. Okay, Sam is an alias for a guy named Scott. You want to raise your hand? Right there. He's the guy that taught this to me. He relaxed his muscles. His shoulders turned out to be the main problem. Collapsed one day on a desk because of how hard he was being triggered. And as soon as he collapsed and relaxed, it was like, wow, that's different, right? So Bill was a guy that I did parent coaching with, and he had misophonia for over 20 years. He was still eating with his children, but they knew it triggered him, and they did it on purpose just to irritate him. And he says, it drives me nuts. And if we talked about it, it was his jaw. So I told him to relax his jaw when he's eating, and since he was with his family anyway, I said, eat before or after. You can't relax and chew. Relax your jaw, go home, and come back for the kid in 4 weeks. They came back, how's the kid? That last parent coaching session, kid's doing great. How's your misophonia? He said, oh, it's gone. Wow, how long did it take? I'm thinking, what, a week, 10 days, He said, well, at first, 30 minutes. I said, 30 minutes? What are you talking about? He said, well, I could feel my jaw flinching, and after 30 minutes, it just stopped. And then the next day, it'll come back. It's called spontaneous recovery, and die out, come back, and die out, come back, and it's gone. So we're short on time. I'm not going to give the story of Melissa or of my wife, who recently developed a trigger to chickens clucking, her wonderful pet chickens. When one clucking is fine, but all 3 was just driving her crazy. And she was holding her breath, and so she did breathing. So here's a case with Bristol. This is the first person I mentioned who has responded so well. So she went out 2 days after her first session. She had a jaw clench. She was out pulling weeds, and she heard the kids screaming, and it was like, oh, she said, it's like a 9, it's like unbearable virtually. And she didn't want to leave. She wanted to help. She said she started relaxing her jaw and all of her muscles, the rest as much as she can, but especially her jaw. She said as soon as she started relax, she felt the intensity of the screaming of the triggers coming down. After 5 minutes, she was down on from a 9 to a 5, and she wasn't experiencing distress. And after 15 minutes, it's like 1 or 2, virtually no reaction. And after 20 minutes, she was unaware of the kids screaming. So this is miraculous, right? This is miraculous. But she had a very distinct jaw muscle reflex, and she knew what to do. And she was disabled, couldn't hold a job, hadn't had a job for 2 years, was not considering any employment in the rest of her life. And now she's like, hey, I got to start looking for the next part of my life. I've got my life back. I mentioned sleep. We can cover that. So here's your action, right? Go and do it. This is not something to be taken lightly. This is not something you can say, I tried it for a couple of days, didn't make any difference. Yeah, I did it a couple of times. It's okay. I know how to do PMR. This is practice, practice, practice. You want to play in Carnegie Hall? How do you get there? Practice. And that's what you need here. So you got to do the practice. You got to practice stepping through your body. You got to practice the total relaxation, and then you got to go use that total relaxation in the real world. So I want to say that I think there's good reason to hope. Where we are, I've only been working with this for 7 years, and what we know is drastically different and improved over where we were 7 years ago. We know so much more about misophonia, and we have a lot of money going into research for misophonia. So in my opinion, misophonia, for most of you, does not have to be a life sentence of suffering. I'm not going to say it's going to all go away, but I think I'd say have hope, get help, and don't give up. And as they said in Galaxy Quest, never give up, never surrender. So thank you. So until I'm told, well, it's really break time, so I'll take a couple of questions, and if you want to sneak out quietly, go ahead. Yes. Okay. So generally, the tensor tympani muscle, according to Dr. Yastreboff, is associated with the fact that you're getting a loud sound coming into your ear. And so you've learned that triggers are so aversive that you're trying, that muscle is triggering you. I would work on all the rest of your muscles. I would work on all the rest of your muscles, just learning to relax. So the question was, how about the pain in the ear, which was what was just asked. I hadn't repeated the question. Another question. Okay, well, I'm available for any questions or chat after this, and I wish you well. This is a tough condition. You're welcome. Okay, and for those of you who are still on, I apologize. I'm writing a note here that says mute. Where it is, there it is. Mute the microphones and start recording. And stop recording. And we're going to end this session. I'll see you in an hour.